Let's talk about what happens when a lead no-shows, because you are buying qualified leads. You're guaranteed to get whatever quantity of leads that you purchase through us. You and I both know that the sales cycle for an IUL can be a long, drawn out process. Now, with our leads in particular, because you're getting leads who are literally just searching high intent terms into the search engine around getting an IUL, the sales cycle is already naturally shorter just because the level of interest is higher. So what we found is giving A-player agents who are willing to get involved in the sales process, they milk more policies out of the guaranteed qualified leads rather than guaranteed appointments. Because with guaranteed qualified leads, you end up paying less per qualified lead and you can re-engage and milk more out of your pipeline with this system. Again, we don't just take on anybody and their dog. We're looking for very specific type of agents who are willing to put in the work, because it truly does take work in order to write more policy. Versus the other side, where you will quite literally pay an arm and a leg for a guaranteed qualified appointment and you have far fewer opportunities in your pipeline. You and I both know that you need volume in order to have a high probability of actually making a return on your investment and writing more policy. So again, this is why qualified leads make sense. And once again, whatever quantity of leads you buy, you're guaranteed to get that quantity of qualified lead. Now, when a lead comes through, what ends up happening is, depending on the batch you buy from us, we either live transfer or book them directly into your next available slot if you're not able to take the live transfer. Ideally, we live transfer the leads over to you because it has the highest show rate. You're able to connect with the most leads this route. That's why we offer this as a service. Again, we're trying to give you all of the tools and the systems to write the most amount of policies off of any leads that you buy from us. Now, to be super realistic, there's always a quantity of leads that will come through that you're just naturally not able to get a hold of. And that's just how it works. So there's something that what we call the interest level spectrum that's super important for you to understand. So for a policy to actually be written, the lead has to have the same level of interest as the agent. The deal ends up happening at this level. It has to pass the green threshold, and the blue represents the agent's interest in getting the deal done. The agent always has the highest level of interest in making the deal happen. Now, the lead, however, generally has a lower level of interest when they come into a pipeline. Since we are sourcing our leads through search engine ads and someone already has a general level of interest because they're already searching for an IUL, their interest level is higher in comparison to some of the other platforms that you'd be sourcing leads from. So when a lead comes in, generally their level of interest is somewhere around this mark. If you're getting social media leads, they end up like literally coming in down here, right where the red is. And your job as an agent is to literally bring someone, in this case, from wherever they're at currently all the way up to that level of that matched level of interest where the deal's actually going to happen. So what ends up happening is when you get on a call with somebody, it raises their level of interest. In this case, so if you get on a call with somebody and you're a good closer, it quite might literally bring their level of interest to like 3/4 or almost all the way up, right? And there's only a couple last few pieces that need to happen in order to make the deal happen. That's cool, that's great. If you're an experienced closer, you know how to make that happen. But I want to make this video specifically for what happens if leads no-show, because you have to look at it in terms of interest level. So since a lead was literally just searching on one of the search engines and they're actively looking for an IUL and they have the funds and or the assets, depending on their age range, to be able to fund an IUL, they're already somewhat interested. These leads will absolutely re-engage with you if they are hit with the right follow-up. So we use what we call value-driven follow-up. This is a way of following up with a lead that is going to be interpreted as a non-selfish way of following up. If you follow up with someone as an example and you're like, hey Johnny, I'm following up with you. Hey Johnny, when are we gonna get in a phone call? That's gonna get interpreted as a selfish follow-up. And quite literally, if you followed up with me like that, I'm not gonna get on the phone with you. You and I both know that that's just not gonna happen. It's annoying. So there's a general rule of thumb with value-driven follow-up. Every single interaction that we have with someone, whether they're actively engaged in the pipeline or long-term, we are trying to re-engage them to bring their level of interest up in the sales process, has to have some form of value. So the first thing that we do on our end is we use email to re-engage the leads to increase their interest level over time. Will email bring their interest level up to a point at which the deal is actually going to happen? No, but it's enough to increase their interest level enough because they were literally just searching for an IUL that they will re-engage in the pipeline and give you an additional opportunity to speak with them to write the policy. So the first thing that we end up doing on our end is email value-driven follow-up. All of our emails generally come from 4 main topics: questions around IULs, second layer questions around IULs, which is questions that would come from asking a question, general expectations, and objection handling around IULs. This is what we call scalable actions. Scalable actions are essentially stuff that we can do with automation where we can generally follow up with value. This stuff absolutely works in terms of raising someone's interest level. Even in the case where someone comes through, let's say they do a search looking for an IUL, they'll come in at this level of interest. Once again, back to the interest spectrum. Over time, if they drop off, their level of interest will just will naturally decline as they come through, just because there's a certain duration of time that has happened from when they had enough interest to actually search and they came through. They might have looked up some of the stuff that you have in terms of resources, maybe even got on a call with them, but they've just kind of fallen off over time. Their interest level has dropped. So we use email to re-engage and bring them back up on the interest level spectrum to help you re-engage your pipeline and have more opportunities. Now, at the time of shooting this video, we only use email and a little bit of SMS here and there in order to re-engage the pipeline. We don't use AI because AI is interpreted generally as selfish follow-up. You can tell when an AI bot is messaging you. As an example, if we hammered you with a whole bunch of AI messages and not value-driven follow-up in our sales process, you probably tell us to get bent. What ends up happening if we were to use AI as an example, okay, someone comes through at this level, they might drop off. Let's just say you can't re-engage these people, they end up no-showing. They might drop off and they'll kind of like consume your emails. They'll like flatline at this level of interest. If we were to hammer them with AI SMS, their interest level will go just drop, sheer straight drop off, and they would essentially opt out of the pipeline. And when they have opted out, we legally are not allowed to continue following up with those people. So another thing that I want to talk about specifically is what we call non-scalable actions. This is stuff that marketing automation cannot do. However, it is extremely effective if you have the bandwidth to be able to do it. As an example, you as the agent, if you get on a call with someone, but they ghost you over time, or maybe you even had someone come through and they no-show right off the bat, but you have enough information on them that you can contextually follow up with value. As an example, if you came through our sales process, you likely got a selfie video. That selfie video is unique to your application. We use whatever you say on your application and make a contextual follow-up to help further engage you in our sales process. You can do the exact same thing with IULs. What it does is it increases your probability of not only connecting with somebody, but also increasing their interest level in the interest spectrum. Now, scalable actions, though not terribly efficient, are extremely effective at re-engaging your pipeline, especially if you have someone who is hot in your pipeline. Now, there's so many things that you can do in terms of non-scalable, value-driven follow-up. My favorite is really just taking context and following up with whatever current situation someone is at. This is what we've seen over time to be the most effective in the sales process. Now, the final point that I want to bring up here, which is super important, okay? If at any point you as the salesperson end up losing your level of interest in the lead, because this spectrum is fluid, it absolutely changes all the time. Once again, this is the level of interest for the person that is looking for a policy, and this is your interest level as the agent. If you capitulate to the level of interest of the lead that came through the ads and your interest level drops, therefore meaning you stop following up with value, you stop re-engaging your pipeline, and your interest level drops, there will be no deal that happens. For a deal to happen, both parties' interest have to be fully maxed out at this top level. So you as the agent cannot give up on the qualified leads that come through, because any lead that you buy from us, you have to put this into perspective. They literally searched into a search engine something super high intent around getting an IUL, and they have been qualified based on their financial situation. It makes absolutely no sense to just give up on these leads long term. So to be clear, what we end up doing is we help support you in the long run to help you milk the most out of your pipeline with scalable actions. This is where we use marketing automation in order to make it happen. This is where we use value-driven follow-up through email and sometimes through text. In addition to that, if you have the bandwidth, non-scalable actions is where the money is really made. At the end of the day here, we are giving you not only super high intent qualified leads, but also a system to help you milk the most out of your pipeline.